let's talk about the Baja 1000. If you followed along at all, and if you watched these previously, this is definitely one I have no desire to make, if I'm going to be 100% honest. But I'm going to do it for you guys. We'll start way before, obviously, all the bad stuff happened. We'll go a couple weeks prior. Pre-running. All right, so normally we're pre-running in UTVs and luxury pre-runners and stuff, but for this Baja 1000, you know, it was such a big thing, and with us running Bryce Menzies' truck. So yeah, I guess I'll start there. For this race, I teamed up with Bryce Menzies, you know, the #1 truck, the #1 guy, as far as Baja racing right now. He's the man. So teamed up with Bryce, and together we decided we were going to tackle the Baja 1000. For me, I was going to do the first 460 miles and then jump out and hand it off to Bryce, and he was going to do about the last 400-ish miles. Me starting meant I had to qualify, and I had the coast section. So we'll talk about pre-running. I'll kind of walk you guys through the course as far as pre-running and stuff. So we started, and I was pre-running in this truck sitting behind me, my Mason all-wheel drive Ford Raptor 1,000 horsepower trophy truck, which is rare. You know, I was getting to train in what I fight with. So that was awesome, and I think it really was going to help me, and I felt extremely confident going into the race. I had never got to spend time, this much time in Baja really just playing around with an all-wheel drive. So I felt like as a driver, I was learning a ton and able to stuff. But we'll talk about the course and pre-run, and then with the race not making it very far, we won't do a ton. But pre-running, so we aren't able to pre-run the start until literally the last day. So the last day, I went up, jumped in my pre-runner, ran it, and then jumped in the all-wheel drive and ran it. And the start's pretty straightforward. You start in Rancho Nelson, which is a pretty cool course, a little like short course, and then we head up a nice graded road, and then we kind of head into the mountains, and it gets kind of nasty around that Ojos area, and then dropping in, heading down towards European area. There's rocky, nasty. Pre-running that, which it kind of sucks because it's really tight and technical in there, and we only get a pre-run the one day. So we ran in here. It was good though, but yeah, you're running through these rocks, and then you drop down into the European section, which is kind of where we run there a ton. And this, we get a pre-run the whole couple weeks. This section, we spent a lot of time in my pre-runner and my UTV and my all-wheel drive, just trying to master it and trying to, we've raced there a lot, so it's really getting chewed up, a lot of silt. But as you go through European, it starts off, you're on some graded roads, and then you get into these kind of nasty ups and downs, just one after another. And then once you clear that, you're kind of just winding through some mountainy terrain that's rocky and silty and a lot of holes. It's just been worn out. We've raced there a ton. And then you get into some just big silt, kind of opening rolling hills where you're just dodging silt and rain ruts, and then you're on top of ridges. So you just got to be really careful. Super fun to drive, super fun to pre-run in, especially with an all-wheel drive. Like, you're not worried. When you're going through in like the two-wheel drive pre-runners and stuff, you're a little worried because there's so much silt and just junk. You're like, I hope I don't get her stuck.
Oh, we're gonna have to back.
From that section, then you run up a little speed zone through Acambaro area into San Tomas. From San Tomas to the coast is awesome. Graded, smooth roads, super fast, super flowy. In an all-wheel drive, especially pre-running, like you're just full rally car action, releasing my inner rally. So that, run all the way down the coast. Once you get to the coast, it gets a little more technical. Not like technical, but it gets a little rockier, it gets a little more tighter roads, less just perfect gravel roads. But I mean, the views are awesome. You got to kind of stay focused there. Definitely an opportunity to just be looking at the dolphins and drive off the cliff, which hopefully, that'd be a bummer.
It's like 50 dolphins right there.
There's more down here because Mike was like, oh, they're all over here too. Right here, yeah. Oh, look, they're on the wave. Oh yeah, they're in the wave. You can see them.
Then you run Coyote Cows, which is in the town of Arindia. So you run into Arindia, which is it's a cool little town right on the coast. At that point, it's speed zone. We walk through there, as soon as you get through there, some big nasty whoops, and then you kind of start jagging your way across farm fields and down the coast. Really chattery, really blown out stuff. It's seen better days, for sure. But, you know, especially pre-running in this thing, it was awesome. We were just blazing through there. Kind of clear Colonette wash area, go down a big wash, and then you kind of just start ripping down the coast. Super high speed, just to a point where it's kind of scary fast. You're on these, it starts from like Colonette to San Quintin area. You're just in this like, you're in these like kind of windy roads, but then it gets narrow and there's multiple lines and they kind of crisscross and stuff, but you're going like 120. So it's scary. You're going like 100 to 120 through some of these where you're just like, you're like trying to pick your way through. Especially like pre-running, you're like, man, I don't want to go make a mistake that costs you, but you got to run at pace and see, and which is awesome. And we had the helicopter up all week when I was running the all-wheel drive just to make sure safety in front of me so I could run at higher speeds. They were flying right above us, making sure people, animals, stuff like that was clear. So run down there, then you literally jump on like the beach for a little, and then you're on the coast where there's a section where it's kind of, there's like a fence line here, and then there's like a 50-foot cliff, and then the ocean, like the rocks in the ocean, and then you're on this like, it's like this out of rhythm, rain rut kind of road. And that part for me, I thought was really scary because you're going probably like 80, but like it's, the truck's never settled. Like it's not flat. It's not like you're just cruising. Like you're just kind of bouncing around, and then there's just the cliff. So you're like, man, I really hope I don't screw up or this truck doesn't have an issue or something happen. From there, then you run down some big sand rolly hills. Then we head into the mountains. So I'd say that was kind of the fun part of my section. Then it got into the more from the San Quintin area, heading towards Catavina and El Rosario and stuff. It kind of gets a little nasty. It starts where you're kind of in these rolling hills that are kind of rocky, a lot of rocks about this big that you're kind of just trying to, they're moving constantly. Every time you come through pre-running and on race day, they were going to be in different spots. So you have to kind of be on your edge, but it's pretty high speeds. So you work your way through there, and then you get into a really technical little rock garden area. It's probably about 10-15 miles of just really picking your way through. There's big rocks, there's hidden rocks, and then you're even doing some rock crawling, kind of where you're just walking your way through. So you do that, and then it kind of opens up into some faster graded roads and heading towards the Catavina area, where it's like graded roads, but they're kind of narrow, like they're fast, but they're narrow, and then they have a lot of silt underneath. So as the weeks go on, they really start to break down, and we got cactus and all kinds of different stuff. So as we work through there, it's a fun section, but it's kind of scary, especially even for the limited, especially for the limited class. I'm an all-wheel drive trophy truck. We're one of the first trucks through, so we don't really have to worry about people and stuff being stuck in them as much, but they're definitely, silt beds were gnarly. I buried an all-wheel drive trophy truck in a silt bed while pre-running, which personally I didn't think was possible. I don't think anyone did. I mean, it's possible, obviously, but the chances are very low. It was a bad situation. We were following a UTV, and we were trying to get around them. We had our siren on and stuff while we were pre-running, and they just weren't noticing us for some reason, or they didn't want to pull over. And we came around a corner, and there was like a new silt bed that just formed. And so it went like lights out for us, just because they were creating so much dust. And for us, we can't see, when it goes lights out, you got to make a decision. You know, in a race scenario, you're going to keep pushing. But in a pre-run scenario, UTV, 7,000 pound, 8,000 pound all-wheel drive trophy truck, if they had stopped or slowed down or something, we continued to push through, it would have been devastating. So we decided, one light's out, so we came to a stop. Well, little we know, we were in like the heart of a silt bed. So when we tried to reaccelerate, we just completely buried the thing. I was not happy. I was not a happy camper. So from there, run through some big silty, just kind of nasty stuff, and then you cross the highway. And then on the highway, after the highway, it just gets into, we're in kind of these choppy washes and cactus fields and stuff. So you for me, like that part of my section was like get to race mile 315 and then just maintain, because there was a lot of opportunities to mess up. you're going through these washes where there's boulders and rocks, and some of them are high speed, and then you get into these other parts of the wash where it's literally just rocky, nasty. And then if you're not in this part of Catavenia area, it's just like shaly rock that's kind of jagged with like cactuses and yucca trees and stuff. So getting off line and stuff is not ideal. And then you have the occasional, like, Catavenia is just known, huge silt beds, just huge silt beds. Like the one, I want to say it was around, it smelled like 340 or something. It was freaking huge, gnarly. Luckily there were some workarounds for like the limited classes and stuff. Problem was, like, I did a lot of timing in the all-wheel drive. It was faster to go through the silt beds, but then you're always like, what if something happens? What if we get stuck? What if there's a dirt bike? Or, there's always this like, so you're like pre-running, you're like, man, do I risk it? Do I do it? So I'm like out there with our stopwatch, timing, trying to figure out what to run. Makes it a little interesting, but didn't get there, so couldn't tell you how it was on race day. Then you cross at 375, cross the highway, and kind of run through some stuff where it's literally just weird, like cactus field going in this rocky junk crap. Jump back on the highway, and then Fred's Tractor Trail, which Fred's Tractor Trail is super rocky, super narrow, and big cliffs. And then once you clear the cliff area, which there's a couple corners it got a couple people this year. It's gotten my boy Elliot in the past where he literally like had to drive off the cliff. He survived. Thank goodness. But as soon as you clear that, what no one else talks about, like the Fred's part's really not that hard to drive. It's just that one or two corners that you can really mess up on. But then once you get to the bottom of Fred's, it is like you're just in this rock garden BS. It sucks. And it's really scary. You're worried about the drive shaft and the rear diff, and you're just tiptoeing through, and it's like 5 miles of just junk. It's not fun. So you get through that and then get onto the highway and head into San Felipe, and that was the end of my section. But yeah, that's our pre-run kind of. I figured I'd go into it more while pre-running since race day didn't go too well. But now let's talk about qualifying. They keep throwing wild courses at us that's super technical. It's at Rancho Nelson, so some of it's kind of like a big short course area, big jumps, kind of that vibe. But then other parts of it are super silty, nasty, off camber, blind corners into another technical, extremely technical, and tough to drive. A lot of chances to make mistakes, a lot of chances to make a big mistake that's going to cost you, could hurt the truck or lose a lot of time. When we made the decision that I had to qualify Bryce's truck, I was definitely a little nervous. I mean, it's scary qualifying another man's truck, I can tell you that. It was definitely a weird vibe that morning. They showed up, literally, I was just there with my helmet and stuff ready to go, and they just brought the truck and it's kind of like, here you go, which is just, it's just a different vibe. Like, it's different. You're not with your crew guys. It's just a different. So we went out, sight lap, kind of got the feel. Like I said, super technical. Everyone's like, oh man, what are we going to do? And we were first truck off the line, so it's like, how hard do I push? The track's still getting worked in. I know a lot of people feel, first truck out, the track's not that blown in. I personally think sometimes it plays to your advantage, but a lot of times you come into corners and stuff, and since no truck had gone there really fast, berms fall away, things move. So I don't think being lead truck is as good as everyone makes it seem, but it's definitely intimidating because you're like, how hard do I push? You don't see someone go out and go, okay, yeah, he probably went like 80, 90%. Like, we can just kind of maintain. For me, I'm like, all right, we got to go out, put down a decent lap so it holds at least somewhere in the top 5. So went out, qualifying, it's a different truck, different transmission, different suspension, same geometry and, same manufacturer chassis, but there's still a lot of changes. So a little intimidating. Took me a couple corners to get it figured out, but for me, I was just kind of trying to stay on the road, not make any major mistakes, and be safe. And overall, I think it went really smooth. Well, it did go really smooth. We qualified first by 5 seconds, so we were super happy with that. The qualifying course, the beginning, you're ripping, you're super high speed, then you get to the end, it's technical, and you just kind of got to pick your way through. And, you know, you're watching the spec trucks go through, then you're watching us go through on our stuff. So you're just trying to like, all right, I'm gonna push here for a little, then I'm gonna cruise this corner, I'm gonna push here, and overall, went smooth, got through. Bryce gave me an awesome truck, and I was super thankful, and I was so thankful to just get that weight off my shoulders. I was so nervous about that, I'm not gonna lie, I was freaking out about it. The worst part, like it's the best and worst part, but right when I crossed the finish line, all of a sudden someone came across the radio like, oh, you looked really good from the helicopter, bud. And I was like, oh, I wonder who that, and then he came on. I didn't say anything. He's like, hey, it's Bryce, just to let you know. I was like, oh, shoot, Bryce was watching. So Bryce was literally in his helicopter watching me just abuse his truck the whole time. So that's a little nerve-wracking. But that being said, we qualified first. We had both McMillans behind us. Race day, let's talk about it. This was nerve-wracking, scary. It's my first time ever being first on the road, so the pressure was on. We do the ceremonial start downtown, kind of parade up, and at that point started Rancho Nelson again. And you know, I really felt good though. I had spent so much time in the all-wheel drive. I felt confident. I knew, you know, the width of the truck, how to drive them. Like I just felt good. You know, I felt connected. And basically my plan was just to cruise. I was first on the road. My goal was just to be a delivery driver to Bryce. I was just gonna take the truck, cruise it, keep it in first just enough, and then hand it off. And hopefully give him a good truck. You know, I could definitely have like went out there with the motto of like, I'm gonna go give Bryce a 15-minute lead. And I think to a point, sometimes that's achievable at 1,000, but then the problem is we're halfway through the race, I give Bryce a truck and the thing is just completely blown apart. So for me being the first driver, my goal was cruise. And we did. So we started off, I literally like was tiptoeing through Rancho Nelson. You watch the videos of me, I'm kind of like boring. Don't hit in the jumps. Just cruising. Like I'm just gonna cruise, get through Rancho Nelson, get on the graded road, and just kind of get in my groove. And then when I feel good and I feel confident that I'm like in the groove, then I'll push a little where I need to and then take my time where I want to. So run down the graded road, feel good, dude. I'm like, yeah, this is fun. It rained a little in the morning. The road was super tacky, just kind of clicking our points. Me and Mike were flowing. You know, like the vibes were good. It was like, okay, we're running at 70%, 75% right now. Like, we're just gonna cruise this for a while and see where, when we get through Ojos and we get through Europan, see where the splits are, see where everyone is behind us, and then we can make a decision. Okay, let's pick it up or let's slow it down. You get off the nice graded road to start picking your way from like towards, like through the hills of Ojos, down through, and then head towards Europan. So we get off and we start heading into this mountainy more terrain, and it's nasty, and it's kind of, you know, I'm like cruising. There's normally, we're just tiptoeing our way through. There's a bunch of chatter. I'm just literally, and there's like these two G-outs. I normally, like in my truck, and I like a Baja 400, just blow into the G-out, and just like, you know, the trucks take it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna cruise these two G-outs. So literally cruise the one, go into the second one, cruise, and they're not big G-outs. Like for us to charge them, it's not. I cruise the second one, I'm like, oh man, all right, I should have charged those. Maybe I'm going a little too slow. Like I was like, you know, you're like, oh man, I'm kind of diddled. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I got to get more in the groove. And as I'm accelerating up the hill, heading up the hill, luckily we're only at like probably like 15, 20 miles an hour. All of a sudden, truck immediate left, which was super scary. There were spectators right there. Thank goodness I did roll that, because if we didn't roll that, we would have been at a lot higher speeds when something happened. But luckily we were going really slow. We were able to come to a stop, stay plenty away from all the spectators. But that was definitely like a, oh shit moment. It's scary, you know, mechanical failures, you don't know what to do. But it was a hard left. And I couldn't really get to turn. I'm fighting it, trying to figure out what's happening. You know, did we blow this? Did we blow that? And, you know, everything we're checking seems okay. Okay, this is fine, that's fine. So I'm like, I don't know. So, you know, we're relaying to the radio guys, and they're like, you just got to keep trying to get us to the next action, get it to Ojos, and we can, you know, figure out what's happening. So then I try to like back up, and at this point I think it was like partially broke, so it wasn't, so I was able to kind of back up and reposition. At this point, Luke McMillan goes by, Andy McMillan goes by, Toby goes by. See, I'm just like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you know, you spend days and months planning and prepping, and we're at mile 27, and it's all falling apart. And you're like, this can't be happening. But you're like, okay, it's a long race. We got 17 more hours of racing. Like, there's still time. Okay, let's just get out of this bad scenario, figure out what's happening, get to the next. So we kind of get it back on the road. It's really, I'm fighting it. I'm like wrestling the car, barely can get it. But it's kind of, I'm able to kind of, I'm like walking it down through this little, because there's like this crevice right in front of us. So I get through the crevice, I'm like off camber trying to, but then it just gets to a point where it's just full lock left. And I physically, as much as I want, cannot turn it right. Mike Kim can't turn it right. We can't get it to go straight. Because if we could get it to get straight, we could have kind of like tiptoed our way through, but we couldn't. It just wanted to go left. So then we got stuck on like a berm because we went left into it and we were like high centered. So then we spent, I don't know, a few minutes trying to get unstuck from that. Had to keep putting the jacks up, jacks down, jacks up, jacks down. Had some locals show up kind of helping us, and we were able to kind of romp it and get it into the bushes, so at least we were out of the course, because we were literally in the course. We got clipped. So, scary stuff. So get out of that situation. At that point, we start trying to troubleshoot. The guys like just try to get the truck to us. I'm like, dude, I literally can't get the thing not to turn left. Like full, everything I got, everything Mike Kim's got. We got the locals hitting the tire trying to straighten it out. We can't get it. So yeah, at that point we were just trying to troubleshoot, and it just kept, we were trying to find a solution, and it just was taking longer and longer. And the problem was we were so kind of in this bad area of the mountains that we like couldn't get out. We couldn't, like, there was no access roads, so we couldn't get crew guys to us. We couldn't get the truck to them. And it was just a disaster. In all reality, it just, literally, if we had broken a mile later or a mile earlier, it would have been a lot easier, but we're in this kind of really bad spot. Pretty much almost everyone passed us. We were able to finally get the truck out after some crew guys were able to get to us. We were able to get the truck out, and at that point, it just was too much of a safety hazard. We had the Class 11 cars in front of us by the time we fixed we repaired the steering box. The Class 11s were in front of us, which Class 11s are stock Volkswagen Bugs. Sections where they're going 40 miles an hour, we could be going upwards of over 100 miles an hour. And the safety part of it, they weigh 1,500 pounds, whatever. We weigh almost, 7,000, 8,000 pound truck. So the safety part, we decided it wasn't, we were having a bad day. Let's not go ruin anyone else's days trying to rush through the pack. Which is, it's like a heartbreaker. Like it's all like mile 27, giving up the Baja 1000. You're like, gosh, this is the last thing I want. And then, you got the keyboard warriors like, oh, you gave up, da-da-da. Trust me, dude. I wanted to get in there and stuff. And then, you are bummed and you're sad and you're like, man, this is going to suck. But in the end, it's a safety hazard. These trucks are so dang fast and so dang heavy. The chance of us running someone else off the road into them or something, it just wasn't. So much risk for so little reward, it just outweighed it. So the Menzies team, they were super, we all sat down and made this decision, and I think it was a smart decision. We all made it home safe, and the whole experience with the Menzies team and everything, they were amazing. I don't think this was their fault at all. I think it was a fluke deal, something internally, or, and ultimately, I didn't hit anything hard. I know there's people, oh, you must have drove it off, da-da-da. Think what you think. In the end, I was cruising 70, 80%, just trying to get in my groove, and ultimately we had a weird failure there was nothing, it was devastating. So, yeah, but the whole Menzies crew, Bryce, his dad Steve, Willie, the whole team, they are all nicest, most professional, most genuine people. So I really want to thank them for this opportunity. You know, like I said in some of the other videos, like I literally grew up watching Bryce. So now getting to race with him and being considered like one of the top contenders at the Baja 1000 was wild. But we'll be back. We learned a lot from it, and hopefully you enjoyed this hour-long rant or whatever it was. But yeah, we'll be back 2025. We're coming swinging. I want to thank all my partners and just supporters and crew and family and everything. It's been a wild year, so a lot of ups and downs. But like I said, we're all here. We're back in Utah. We're safe, in one piece. That's all we can ask for. So, hope plenty more races. As always, like, subscribe, drop a comment down below if I didn't answer all your questions.